Hello and welcome to the Meet Your Species podcast. My name is Heath and I'm coming to you from the future. It is 2020 today, but this podcast was recorded in 2014. So just like the last one, this is part of our vintage series. And with that comes the subpar video and audio abilities of the day because I didn't know what I was doing. So having said that, it was still a very fun podcast and I hope you do enjoy. Today we have a guest named Sara Bess. Sara Bess was an actress, among other things, in Atlanta who I met and is a lovely person. So I really hope you enjoy this conversation. I had a lot of fun filming it. She's a lovely person and I hope you'll enjoy. Da 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 da.
La 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 la. Hello.
La 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 la. Okay. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so welcome to the podcast, Sara Bess.
Thank you.
To any of the listeners, just so you know, if you like this podcast and want to support it, or you want to support newrule.org, you can go to patreon.com, I think, /Heath Street. And that is where you can give recurring donations if you so choose. All of it will go back into supporting all of these different things and helping me do more of this. And yep, so thank you, but no worries, and enjoy. All right.
Right.
So welcome.
Thank you.
Let's dive in, shall we?
Okay.
Shall we?
Shall we? Yes, we shall.
Let's start with, what was your childhood like? Help everyone get to know you a little bit.
Okay. Well, I was raised in the military. My dad was Air Force. So my childhood consisted of moving a lot. Not as much as a lot of other military families. You have to move every 2 years. We were fortunate that we got to kind of stay in some places for about 7 years, 8 years. But it does definitely contribute to a lot of who I am now, just being able to talk to people, make friends easily, things like that. But also, there's always that where do I fit in kind of vibe, like
For sure.
figuring out where home is and things like that. So,
would you say, as you go through life and meet people that didn't grow up with that, were there some things you realized that you think a little bit differently because of your experiences?
mm-hmm.
What?
Absolutely. Change doesn't quite scare me as much, I think, as most people. It seems like, or like moving and things like that, those almost to a point where I do it too often, where I'm like, oh, I'll just go. It's like, but no, I need to stay put for a little bit and like flush this out or whatever. But that, and then you really kind of see like different, like how much we all are really alike. If there's the same type of person in every place that might like the same things, and you kind of get to see, like, yes, we're all unique and we want to think that we're like all different and unique.
Just a creative snowflake.
Right, that we're all that, but as unique as we all are, we're also a lot alike, and so I feel like there's a connection to each other that we have because of that. I felt like I saw that a lot earlier, and just like realizing that we're all people. We all have the same feelings, and we all have the same like desires at the core, at the root. I mean, of course, there's differences.
Yeah.
We're
all basically the same.
We're basically the same. Yeah.
I like that. All right. So, are there any experiences you can call where that sort of contributed to either a revelation? In other words, like an experience that happened that made you be like, oh, and you've been able to help share that with other people?
Yeah, several.
Yeah? Care to share? It's okay.
Yeah, I feel like...
Obviously, you don't say any names or anything, but...
Well, yeah, a revelation. I've had multiple that made me look at the world differently, multiple different times. Sometimes in spiritual aspects, become very spiritual, especially in my mid to late 20s, which then, because of that, helped me look at humanity a little differently again. And going back to like, it kind of started my intrigue into like mind science and like paying it forward and things like that, and that connectiveness that we all have to each other, and that if I am my best, then others are going to be their best because I'm giving that energy. And so I guess it kind of sparked my whole interest in humanity and becoming more of a humanitarian in a sense, and giving back to others and like spreading that out in different ways. And how, I guess the question was a specific thing. At one point in my late 20s, I started a company called Lemonade Yard Sale, which was kind of started just because of that. Like, I had some resources available to me, and I wanted to make t-shirts, wanted to help friends who were artists develop like a little more courage in their like art, and give them a platform to see that it could be a business instead of just the art. And they were younger than me, about 6 years younger, and they were young women, and I wanted to help them cultivate that confidence in themselves and something they love. And so like one semester, one of the girls wasn't able to afford to go to school, and she was really upset about it, and rightfully so, you know. Yeah. And she just said, like, her and her sister were really close, and she's like, well, this semester my sister's gonna go to school, and then I'll be the one who makes more of the money. And so that it's a really sweet thing that they flip-flopped like that for each other, like to help. Yeah. And so they were definitely like a team, and that aspect also reminded me of my sister and I's relationship because we're extremely close. So I had the resources available, and I had a desire to start a company anyways. And so I was like, all right, well, now I'm starting it so that you have something to do. You will be my intern, and I will start this, and we'll put your art on t-shirts and see how it goes. And it was a short run, and we did it for 2 years, and it did pretty well. We sold the t-shirts to a couple different like films.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and the girls really became excited about their art, which they already were, but then they found ways to start marketing themselves more as artists and things like that. So that was really cool. They're no longer obviously interns for me. So, but since then, one of them went and started her own business, which was really cool. Yeah.
What was it?
It was something with her artwork. I think she was doing ceramics of some sort, and then, or no, jewelry. One of the sisters was doing jewelry, and the other one just started doing ceramics. But they got very savvy, and I'd like to hope that I contributed in kind of showing them that it's achievable, it can happen, and things like that. And
nice.
Yeah. So.
Do you know the name of, like, so you can plug them?
Plug them? I don't.
All right, well, we'll totally
I'll find out. I'll look on Instagram, and
it'll be in the video on YouTube of this podcast.
Yes.
And I'll put it in the description of the podcast.
Yes, please do, because they're awesome. They're so, like, two of the most incredibly creative minds that just beautiful. Everything. It's just people that you're like, wow, how did you think of that? And then you made it into art that we can all enjoy. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
You said thought science, mind science?
Oh, yeah, mind science.
What is that?
It's what you think. It's kind of along the lines like what you think you will see. That will be the world that you create. Kind of. Okay. That we co-create with the divine or God or whatever you prescribe to as the universe or an energy, but we're co-creating like our universe, what we're experiencing. And so I like that because the responsibility is given to us to be better. And
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Phone calls happen.
No, I just made a mistake. You did not. Where is my phone? Oh.
Your jacket and your cool jacket.
Cool thrift store jacket.
Yeah, I was looking, I was like, I need that jacket.
Mm.
I actually do need a coat. So I've been like...
So you're eyeing my jacket?
I've been eyeing everyone's jackets. I had breakfast with my friend Ben this morning, and I was like looking at his jacket. We're sitting there after breakfast, just kind of talking outside, and I was like, "Where'd you get your jacket?"
Cool jacket, bro.
Yeah, I like that.
It's like my jacket.
Yeah, I was like, I actually was looking at it, and kind of like that. Can I try it on? And it was like, so he like took it off. I tried it on. I was like, yeah, this is the kind of coat I need.
Yeah.
So
this is my jacket now.
yeah. Bye. It's good to see you. Thanks for breakfast and the jacket. Bye. Yeah. So I like that one.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. I like fashion. See, I'm talking about fashion and art and things I'm interested in.
Clothing, right?
Clothing.
We just covered that? Perfect.
Yep.
All right. So let's talk about impactful people or experiences that help shape the way you think.
Okay. Impactful people. I have a friend who impacted me quite a bit as far as too. I'm also, I believe as far as, what thoughts we put in our mind, like things like the whole mind science thing.
Mm-hmm.
I also believe like food that we put in is important because it's our body, it's our vehicle,
right?
Becomes us. So I'm not going to say that I'm like so always healthy that I don't have my Oreos that I really like to eat or, things like that. Sometimes you're just like, oh, I'm going to have this.
It's worth it.
Yeah, it's life. You need to have it all.
Yeah.
Balance is the key. But he is a friend of mine his name's Liddell, and he is an herbologist. And we met about 3-4 years ago, and it was in a time where I was like, I really want someone to help me become healthier, that's very like knowledgeable about health and can teach me, be my guru essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And so
your guru.
My guru. Yeah. And I met my guru, and his name's Liddell Hill. And it started off where I also hadn't been very active. I was always, as a child, like really into sports and stuff. And so early 20s, you're figuring out how to take care of yourself and get to school and also pay bills. And so that became something more important at that time than me, going on runs. I don't know. So anyways,
it happens.
It just happened. So it was great because I met Liddell, and then he started training me.
Really?
Yeah, he was my trainer, and we would go meet at this park, and I would run, and he would start teaching me about different muscles in my body and just all these different things. And also, while he was doing that, he was like, I just created this drink called juice. And I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, so if you're going to train with me, you're going to drink this meal replacement that I made called juice. And I was like, all right. And so he sends me home with a half gallon of juice.
Half gallon?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
what is juice?
Exactly. So juice is raw food in a bottle. It's like a salad almost. This is the way I can explain it. It's over 45 different fruits, vegetables, nuts, and herbs, not finely blended, but chunky, that you can chew. And it's a meal replacement.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you get some of the fiber, all the nutrients.
All the digestible fibers, proteins, complex carbohydrates, everything you need, all the good stuff. So he sends me home with this. First time I'm drinking it, I'm in my kitchen after he also, beat me up in this run. He's a hard ass. I was I would come home and my legs would be wobbly like jello after doing all these lunges and stuff, and I'd be like, okay, I guess that's juice. So I did that, and I poured it, and it's really chunky, and I was pouring it in a glass, and I was looking at it, I was like, oh my god, what am I doing? What am I doing? And I was like, this looks like vomit. And I was like, what is this? And I was like, this is what he said to do. I trust him. I'm already looking a lot better from the training.
Trust your furu.
Trust my furu, because I asked for him and he came, you know. So I did, and it was really, like, really, really, really good. And so I just started drinking it because it actually tastes good. And it did what he said he would do. Like, it started kind of toning my body, and I felt really good. And since it's raw, you know, I had a lot more energy because the whole raw food movement is kind of so that you're getting those live enzymes and stuff. And so you're naturally, like, getting that energy, and you're not spending your body's energy, like, breaking it down quite as much. And you get all more vitamins. And
so it's not pasteurized, right?
No, it's not pasteurized.
Okay. And that's what usually kills a lot of the enzymes.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's cool.
That's really cool. So then I started doing that. And he, through being a great trainer, and then also through being, like, someone who got me to drink this drink that I didn't know, like, he became just, like, a great friend. And so awesome. I would show up at, like, farmers markets and help them sell the juice and things like that. And then I lived off of it. There was at one point where, like, I went really strict with, like, okay, he said to drink, this is 2 meals of the day, and then have one meal that's normal. And I did that, and I was, like, primo health. And then got accompanied by just, like, his life philosophies and the time that we spend together, like, when we work out and the things that we talk about. And just, he's definitely been someone who always, you know, even in my, like, I won't say million, but dating time, and, like, testing the waters of dating. He would, like, talk to me about that. He's like, why are you know, he'd be a good friend through it all. And he always, his perspectives were always, he's also very spiritual. We're always, like, what I needed to hear to keep myself at a standard in so many ways of life. And I feel blessed that I have a friend like that. Awesome. And a person like that who's that strong and does a million great things for so many people, like developing this product, but then even just, he gives so much. And it always reminds me when I look at him as a person, like, oh yeah, that's my friend, and that's how you do it.
Cool. I love finding those. They're so hard to find, but those people that are so stable and solid and know who they are, and they know right from wrong, and they're not afraid to say it. It's just so hard to find.
It's very hard to find, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
But
I don't know what that is. I don't know why, but
I think because there's so many things in life that I think that we can say we want to be a good person, and there's so many things then that tempt us to do other things, our weaknesses, and it takes really sometimes the sacrifice or whatever it is to be like, not instant gratification or whatever it is, whatever that, even your bullshit story you told me before we started this, which I love, but, like, that's kind of the same thing, is, like, don't prescribe to the bullshit, because you can get to the top quickly. And but so people who don't prescribe to it, there's a wisdom to that. There's a patience. There's and then through that, there's a deep knowing of self. You know what? Not a lot of people want to wait for all that. You know why? Because it's hard. It's not easy. So that's why there's few of those people. That's my philosophy.
I like that.
Developed here on the couch and me right now.
It's wonderful. What is this, a quilt?
It is a quilt. Very nice. It's my new quilt. I really like it. I'm super excited.
It is beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also kind of think that the huge amount of information that we get, it comes in, especially since a lot of it comes in the form of blogs or people's opinions, especially on TV. I feel like that, so we have this thing called the memory nerve. You might be familiar, but if anyone's listening, if you're not, it's essentially when you see someone performing an act, like, say, playing sports or porn or anything, your brain lights up just as if you're doing it. So what that means essentially is that when you're reading an article that you agree with, your brain lights up as if you
did it.
Exactly, or you thought it. But I'm starting to think that maybe all of that opinion, that sounds like a logical train of thought, that doesn't actually mean it's correct. It just means it's a well thought out paradigm. I think that's affecting us. because there's so much opinion out there. There's so much information, and it's impossible to process it all. So finding those people that are actually able to think things all the way through without letting themselves get caught up in
the propaganda of just
because it's hard to know
a massive amount of information. There's too many voices. There's too many.
Well, I don't think there's too many. I think we just need to learn how to
filter it appropriately.
Exactly.
Like what works. It's like, that's great. What works for me and what doesn't.
Or what is truth and what is opinion. I'm fine with everybody having opinions. Just please label appropriately, because if you haven't experienced
I don't know if humans have ever done that.
Yeah, but
arguably.
But we have the internet. We have everything we need. There's no reason anymore. Before, you were stuck with the people around you. That's it. So I don't blame anybody before the internet, really.
Fair enough. Okay.
I don't know.
It was a smaller window to look through, so you had to kind of
Twas.
Truth might have seemed like you could see it. And
Hysteria. That sounds legit. Yeah, doctor said it's good.
Yeah. All right.
Phrenology. Slavery. It's all good. Anyway, moving back to you.
Oh.
So, any other wonderful, impactful experiences with people?
Yeah, I mean, that probably most recent, because all of that caused a huge shift in my life. It's changed. Not only, like, I feel like if you change your health, it changes your attitude, it changes your mindset, it changes so many things. And
what do you think that is?
Because.
Or for you, at least.
For me?
Yeah.
Just because I might have gotten in, like, a rut, or, just, like, it shows a discipline that I needed at the time, too. Like, okay, I can keep doing this. Like, if I keep doing this every day and I see results, then if I do that with my body and then it's, I feel good, and then I have this extra confidence, if I do that there, then I can do that in other areas, and I'll see results.
Nice.
So yeah, that was one thing.
Good deal.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let us talk about the present.
Okay.
So, what's your life like right now?
My life right now is, let's see, I act. That's a huge part of my life. It's a huge ambition. My life right now is too, I recently kind of let go of my more stable jobs, in the sense of, like, lots of responsibility at work, being like a manager of a store, and then having that company that my sister and I started, Lemonade Yard Sale. We closed that down, and I kind of took all these things that were, like, distracting me from, not distracting, healthy distractions, but still, like, not letting a lot of the time to focus on my acting and things like that, and that creative side of the brain that you have to use. I was doing a lot of business, so I kind of let all that go, and so now I'm really starting to saturate myself in the acting community here in Atlanta, the film community, all aspects of it. I'm taking a couple writing courses.
Okay.
So I'm really excited about that, like screenwriting, and
Definitely.
I really have always been fascinated with the world of film and that medium of storytelling, and I'm going to learn every facet of it.
I like it. I mean, that's the best way to do it, right?
Yeah.
Learn everything makes you better.
I want to learn everything, so that's kind of where I am.
Cool.
Just studying up on it all.
Are there any issues maybe in any of those fields, or any other things you notice that are kind of bugging you?
In that field, I think I think there's issues in every field. There's, like, certain things. I think that there's nothing that's, I think, is that important in that field. Like, I don't.
Okay. What about
to me, like, I think my idea of that is I'm stumbling on this question. I think there are bigger things outside of that industry for me personally.
Okay.
Like,
so, like,
like things that I want to give back to. Like, I have a huge, I want like mentoring young women and things like that is something that I've always been interested in, and like food and things like that. So, um, like last year, I went to like during Christmas, went and did a food drive and things like that. And so, those are the issues that I typically kind of like to be hands-on, maybe, and proactive with.
For sure.
Yeah.
So what? Let's just take one and dive in.
Okay.
Do you have a top one?
The top one, I really children, like mentoring children. I think it's very important because they are our future. So I've always kept up with the girls that like interned with me and checking on them and see how they've been doing, what their progress has been, and that's something that I want to in this new year continue to do more of. And I've been looking into different nonprofits to kind of help volunteer and do things like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a little bit of I kind of talked a little bit about this is possibly opening up Lemonade Yard Sale again and restructuring it so that I could give some profit to different nonprofits. So
okay. What is it about children and I'm assuming specifically young women that's so important to you?
I think that probably because when I was growing up, I might have needed a little bit more mentoring, like someone who was not super, like a whole lot older than me, but someone who was a couple years older that was different. I was very eccentric and very rebellious and very artistic, and I think that I might have really benefited having someone earlier on, like a Liddell, that was, or that was like, hey, no, you don't do that. Like that's not, you're better than that, or like push yourself a little harder there. But I just kind of didn't, so it's a little wildflower thing that floated around, made some good choices, but made some ultimately not the best, and so I think that's why it's important, because those are such influential like years, like adolescence, and being around the right people and people who nurture you, and that's why I like to help people kind of in that age where you can easily get lost if you're not, because you're not listening to your parents quite as much, because I got lost around my late teens, early 20s, and it wasn't until a couple of years later that I started to be around people who didn't help me stay lost and pull me down, and who were like made me accountable for things and stuff like that. And so that's part of the reason why I've always, or recently, think it's really important.
Definitely. You said you help with some nonprofits. Is that what you said?
Oh, no, I'm looking into it. I've been researching a lot of different ones that I wanted to get involved with, and some of them were helping girls and young, like families that came from domestic abuse, and then looking into also helping girls girls and boys coming out of sex trafficking, because Atlanta has, that's another one of mine that really,
that makes me so sad.
Yeah, it's crazy, is that Atlanta has, it's the biggest hub for like distributing
in America. Yeah,
in America.
Like, what, top 6, top 5 in the world?
It's something atrocious.
The worst part is that it's not actually in Atlanta. It's just that our airport is so, I guess, loose. I don't know how to describe it, because I don't really understand what the problem is.
I think the security's too flexible. There's not enough questions asked, and
well, why is TSA so much and then they can't take care of this? I don't understand. I
don't care.
I guess. I just feel like it's not that hard. You look at what other airports that don't have this problem are doing. You look at other airports that did have this problem and fixed it are doing, and then you try and find a solution that works for it. It shouldn't be that hard. But maybe I'm missing something.
I don't think that the problem's even at the airport.
Yeah.
I think because the people who do that are so manipulative and have manipulated the people that they're made the victim, that when they're in the airport, there's so much going on that it's hard to identify that that's what that is.
Yeah. Do you know, are they going just on normal airplanes and flying? Like they could be sitting next to you and you?
Mm-hmm. And you think it's a father and a daughter, think things like that.
Well, I can see how that'd be more complicated then.
Yeah, because it's...
How do you identify it?
Yeah. I think that the way to do that is to educate like children on like self-worth and different things like because people who...
But are they coming from America?
They're coming from other countries.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's...
And sometimes
It's hard for us to educate people in other countries.
Yes, totally. But I think that they're coming from all over. Like, I don't know if... I think it goes always. Even people get kidnapped here. And there's also a lot of prostitution, too, that goes on here. And that was...
How do you feel on prostitution?
How do I feel about it? I mean, it's awful. Yeah.
Well, obviously forced is not good.
Right. That's kind of the education that I'd like to give, because I was a couple of years ago watched this documentary about prostitution in New York, and it was funny because I was living in New York at the time, and it showed one of the most like highly saturated streets that had prostitution, and I was living on that one of the streets, and it was in Brooklyn, and I was like, oh,
that's
this
cute.
Sucks. That's what that... I mean, I saw it, obviously. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, that's what that is.
Is it weird watching a documentary and be like, that's the street? I
was like, 3 streets. Shit.
Nice.
Yeah. Excuse my French. But yeah, so I was just like, that was something too. And so mentoring. And no, we can't necessarily go always to the other country mentor, but there are programs set up for outreach in other countries, and I think that it's just, I don't know, I feel like for me personally I would like to stay in the United States and help things here, because I feel like a lot of Americans, we want to go overseas and do things and help the world over there, but there's a lot of things that can be done here, and so
definitely
it's just finding what that is.
Well, I feel like there's a good argument to be made for why to focus here, and it's
home.
Well, beyond that though,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to fix something about your life, it's usually helpful to start looking within, right? Fix your own self so that you can be a good example for others and be that rock,
right?
That solid person. So wouldn't it make sense for us as a country to set a good example first, especially since all these economies are rising and trying to mimic us? That scares me. And I see like India and Brazil and all these, and China trying to westernise. Because, I mean, the path we've set isn't really sustainable. Not for everyone to do that. No.
No.
So they're trying to copy us. That's like, sometimes I feel like countries are like children in a different level collectively.
Yeah.
So if we're, I don't know, I'm going to say we went through a rebellious phase. We had rich grandparents.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally know what you mean.
And now we're waking up and we're like,
oops.
Maybe.
The trust fund's about to be gone.
I don't want to grow up.
The analogy for, I gotta put a tie on. We're accountable for this, whatever that is.
Corset? No, that's not. No.
No.
Stop.
No. See, I think fashion, that's my analogy. Button up. Get ready to go to work.
Get fancy.
Get ready to work. I like that analogy.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So, are there any other things? I feel like it's impossible for everyone to know everything, right? So, just from your perspective, from the things you've observed, especially since you did move around a lot as a child, what have you noticed besides mentoring young children that seems like something we should pay more attention to? Or have you noticed? I mean, maybe there's not.
I think that I mean, yeah, that's one of the bigger things to me. Education, all those things. Education, actually, that is a huge, huge thing. And that kind of can be put into mentoring in a way, not completely, but our education. Yeah, I mean, all these things. Children in the middle, education, food, mentoring.
Aren't the kids always in the middle?
It isn't, yeah. But yeah, I think education in America, that's something that I think that we should put more value on. And I learned that especially, and we moved my junior year of high school from Northern Virginia, and there's a great public school system up there, and I was like it had every state, yeah, and it had all this state-of-the-art equipment. We were right outside of DC, and it had like, not all of Virginia though is like that, because when I was 16, I also did this program with the state of Virginia where we did an exchange student.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for different parts of Virginia, because also some parts.
I've never heard of that. Different parts of Virginia?
Yeah, it was real because Northern Virginia is so. I mean, it's like a metropolitan because it's right outside of DC, and then the rest of Virginia is very rural and then it has the mountains. So if you go like more west, it is very different, two different worlds. So when I was 16, with the state representative or state delegate, she had organized this thing where she wanted kids at the same grade level to do an exchange program so that we could go there and see what their school experience is like, and they could come and see what ours was like and what we're exposed to. And what I actually saw was their equipment that they had was...
So you got to be exchanged with someone else.
Okay. Yeah, we switched. So I hosted a girl. What's her name? I think it was Krista. Yeah, I think it was Krista. Yeah. So I went and stayed with her for a week, and she came and stayed with me for a week. And then we would go to school and shadow each other. Like, I would go to her classes. She would go to mine.
That's cool. And you also make friends.
And we made friends. It was really cool. We had a great time. And but their equipment and the things that they had available to them were so dated. Their science labs were from like, hadn't been like remodeled since the early 50s.
50s?
Like, it was bad. And there were parts of, and I was talking to her and they were like, there's certain people who come to school here, like, not everyone, but at like a select 3 or 4 that didn't have electricity.
Wow.
Like, wild. In the United States, because they were that poor.
That's intense.
It was super intense. I was like, what?
Man.
Like,
I mean, it makes sense. It's a big country. There's like 330 million people that we know of, but still.
Like, that's intense. And that was in 2001. It was wild. So that stood out. Because I'm like, well, we're definitely not getting the same education, because you go up to where I was in school and we had like, we had like state-of-the-art, like, it became a magnet school at one point, so all this money was pumped in, and we had like a dental program where you could learn how to be a dental hygienist.
In high school?
Yeah, it was incredible. And like, since I was in TV production and all that, we had like the top of the line cameras you could have, and like soundboards and editing equipment and like all this stuff. So I was like, you know, I can rent these cameras and take it and do this TV show over here, and you know, I can do anything. We had teleprompters, like, super cool.
So, but you said it's a magnet school. What does that mean?
Oh, like it became like an arts magnet school, or I guess arts and technology. So like, kids, you would have to test into it. And then kids could come from all over Virginia, a select amount if they were accepted into like the dental hygiene program or the video program. And so they would be able to come and take classes there.
So it's like a specialty school for kids that kind of have an idea of what they want to do. And
like a more focus. Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
And that happened my senior year of high school. But either way, there was just we had great programs. We had really great teachers, and kids who went there have historically done really well, and that was public school. And then like I said, so we moved. I was there my senior year. I was also there my freshman and sophomore year. Junior year was the year that my father got stationed down in Florida. So we moved to Florida, and I immediately saw the difference too in quality of education that I was getting.
So down in Florida.
Yeah, down in Florida.
Where was this in Florida?
Panama City, Florida.
Okay.
And so, yeah, at that school, I was learning things that I had learned 2 years before in Virginia.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, and so obviously I was bored. There's like lots of things that's wrong with that.
And they didn't try and like move you up because you clearly had already learned this, or?
I don't know where to go.
Not like a further up in a grade or classes?
I was in the honors English, the highest level English.
Oh.
And I was like...
Oh, this was high school, right?
Yeah, so I'm like...
Yep.
Right, so this is what I get. So...
Interesting.
Yeah, which was also the time I kind of became more removed from school and all the academics and there wasn't anything that was motivating me to do anything better. And so that kind of was when I said I kind of went in my little don't know what to do, needed some mentoring. That would have been probably a really good time to have that because...
So do you really think that the correlation between the quality of education you're getting directly impacted that?
I do. It's actually now talking about it. Yeah, I think saying it out loud and really like putting the two together. Yeah, I do.
That's interesting. And I'm sure that's a problem for a lot of people that move and have to deal with that.
Mm-hmm. Or even kids that, I don't know, I think even if you stayed somewhere and you're not being pushed or challenged, because there wasn't like I don't know. I just think the quality and being accountable in kids at that age, like I think that as a whole, America could put a little bit more in the education system so that students were more accountable and this whole teaching to the test thing wasn't such a big deal. And I think education itself, which is why I think about like Montessori schooling and things like that. And like, instead of us all having to be like this same thing, like figure out what works for individual and
definitely, and
make it actually something that works rather than just...
Are you familiar with how I think Finland and Denmark run their schools? Mm-hmm. It's pretty interesting. They decided to hell with trying to compete with the world. Mm-hmm. We're just gonna try and encourage kids to have fun and figure out what they want, and we're not even gonna test them until they're like 16. Mm-hmm. They weren't expecting anything. They just thought, well, at least they'll have a good time. Mm-hmm. I think. So when they ended up starting to test the kids at 16, they were number one in the world. Yeah. And their only competitor on that level was, I think, South Korea, where they were like, work, 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 So it's like those two extremes get you there.
Yeah. Amazing. Which is kind of what Montessori schooling is a little bit like.
Is it?
Yeah, like...
So what exactly is Montessori like?
Learn from what I've gathered from people that I knew, like adults that are our age that did it, and some other people I've talked about it with, like parents who have kids in Montessori, it's like learning at your own pace, kind of. Like if they put you kind of in an open room, and then if all of a sudden I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna want to write more. Mm-hmm. And I did some writing, and you want to build something with blocks. They let that happen.
That's cool.
But then they'll talk to you kind of in a certain way and ask questions and kind of prompt you to like kind of expand on why you're doing things a certain ways.
Interesting.
And then obviously there's certain lessons of the day that you do have to, depending on the age level, like age group and stuff, that they kind of direct. But it's definitely like a more open, explorative way of learning. That's what I've gathered.
I like it. I don't know why it was in my head that it was a more old school way of teaching, like a little more strict. But I could be thinking of something completely different.
Maybe.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You know, I just saw a video on YouTube. There's this guy who's got a channel called Journeyman.tv, and he's now working with ABC in Australia. But really cool guy. He just travels the world, does really good quality reporting. And he found this school in New Zealand, and what they do is they have recess, and they pretty much just do whatever you want. Don't kill each other. If you get up a tree, you have to get down. It's all you.
Yeah.
And their incident of injury has gone down. Bullying has gone down. Self-confidence has gone up. And all these benefits. And like, yeah, liability-wise, that might be a ticking time bomb. But at the same time, I don't, like, stuff just starts appearing on the recent, like, planks of wood and tires and all sorts of stuff just started appearing because kids would bring it.
And start building and doing, or like
yeah,
creating their own games.
Stacking them, and it's like, you go there and like, it would be an American parent's nightmare. Like, oh my god, there's a nail, there's this looks terrible, kids climbing all over the things, but they're actually helping each other, and they're building community instead of being mean. They're like, no, come on, let's do it.
It's not exclusive.
Exactly.
It's, and the whole building community is something that I put a lot of value on.
Yeah, that's a good, it's something I'm only realizing that's important as an adult.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really have it as a kid so much.
Well, no, because we grew up in a capitalist society, and it's not really like...
But I don't feel like that's necessarily the hindrance. I feel like people just...
That's my strong opinion.
Maybe. Yeah, I'm not an expert.
Yeah, I don't know. Go ahead.
It just seems like we're just simply too focused on me and mine, and this is mine,
mm-hmm.
and that yeah, you could say it's correlated to capitalism, and in a lot of ways it is, but at the same time I think it also has to do with the fact that when everyone immigrated to the US, because you see it with immigrants all the time, like the first generation still has a lot of the values of their old culture that's been around for thousands of years, but in the newer generations they're Americans, and they're like, I don't want anything to do with this, old Hindu religion or whatever your family came from, and they want to be American. And going right back to America setting an example, like, if we're setting a terrible example in certain aspects, then that's what people are seeing and aspiring to.
It takes tradition.
Exactly. So that's what I'd like to see. But, I mean, I'm not an expert. I certainly would love to talk to some what's it called?
Anthropologists.
There it is, anthropologists, or anyone else that might have good insight on this. So, if you got opinions, send them.
Yes.
Anyway, so community. What do you think around here are good little things that you've discovered that help build community?
In Atlanta?
Mm-hmm.
The past couple years, I have been going to the Land Trust. Have you ever heard of this?
Oh, the Lake Claire Land Trust.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So tell me about that.
So Lake Claire Land Trust is this place right down the street from where I live. So
don't tell me right now.
Yeah. It's great. It's basically a community of people who bought this big land, like part of land in Atlanta, and then they built houses and yurts and created a community.
Yurts?
Yeah, there's some yurts. That's really cool. Yeah. And it's like a drum circle space and a pavilion, and they have a community garden there, and
they grow a lot of food.
They grow a lot of food, and they have community living there that's like not as expensive. So I know a lot of like younger kids will come and move into the city and stuff and live there and get work in the garden and do other different cool things. So
to help compensate for nice.
Okay, so I've noticed that that's a cool part of community here in Atlanta. I go for the sweat lodges. They also have a sweat lodge, which is really, I recommend to anyone.
Is it like a sauna?
It's like a sauna, but it's like circled around like a lot of spiritual activities when you're in it, because you're like purging and getting rid of like things that hold you back, whatever. And it's lots of sweating and chanting and singing. It's technically a Native American ceremony, but it's been done for years. And they have one there, and it's led by an amazing man, Robert, and I love it. So that's as far as I've kind of dove into that community, is just really the sweat lodges. But a lot of things I've learned there, just like hearing people speak, I was like, wow, that's great, and taking it back. And applying it to my day-to-day life, in whether it was work or wherever. But that's a strong community that I like. Yeah.
Cool. Anything centered around mentoring or women that you're aware of? Is it like a big sister program or something?
There are some of those. I don't know if that's... Yeah, there are some of those. And I actually had a friend who is a big brother for a kid, and I would sometimes go with him and hang out with his friend, his little buddy, and that was really cool. And last year I told you, like, I went and did went to a soup kitchen and did that during Christmas, and that was cool. That was more just the broad homeless population here in Atlanta, and I'm glad that I did that. But I also learned that I don't think that that's necessarily the place that I want to be, just around a lot of homeless men.
Yeah.
Just with how
maybe not being all by yourself.
Yeah, I was just like, I don't know if this is... I'm glad I did it, and I was also glad that I was on the shift and then that was about to be over, and I ended up in the kitchen and just ended up cooking the meals, and I was like, this is something that's more compatible with my personality and what I want to be doing, and ended up having two lovely girls that I worked with that were a couple years younger, and ended up just talking to them, mentoring. Because I'm older, cooking for the homeless and they're asking me questions about what I do and how did I quit doing, because I used to smoke and drink and all this stuff, and that they wanted to go on a smoke break, and I was like, I quit, like, they were like, really? How'd you do it? So I got to explain how to quit smoking and become healthier, which is not an easy thing to do by any means, but it's something that I overcame. So it's cool to talk to these girls that are, about 5-6 years younger than me, that they're like, I'm going to do that too. And I'm like, right on. Good.
I like it.
Yeah, so that aside, I researched to find ones that catered more to females. And so there's an organization I've got to save on a computer, and I'm so bad with names. So after this, you're going to have to do a list of all the things that Sara Bess talked about, but can't remember the names.
It'll be accredited.
Oh yeah, it'll be like scrolling there. But there's an organization that helps rehabilitate women and children who've been in homes with domestic disturbance. And there's mentoring opportunities if you want to do that, and different facets that you can get involved with, however you want to. I mean, it can be just donating clothing and things like that. And I'm actually part of this, on another note, it's really great web or Facebook page called Dream Warriors Opportunity Page. And it's...
so what's Dream Warriors?
The Dream Warriors is like a group of primarily women throughout the country who kind of connect and talk to each other about this job's opened here, or this apartment is here, and it's really great. And it's just a strong community helping each other grow. Or if somebody found like a pet that needs to be adopted, or someone's selling shoes, or someone's getting rid of art supplies. And someone actually posted today, and this is, you might have seen at the bottom of my stairs, that bag of clothes.
I think so.
Yeah. So those are some things I'm going to donate to a family that one of the women on Dream Warriors posted about a family who needs some clothing. Their mother had kind of just abandoned them, and so they have been living with their grandparents, and
that's rough.
It is rough. And so they she put a really detailed list of things that they need and what their sizes are. So I have a few things that I put together that will be something that I can do right now. And so that's cool. But I think there's plenty of opportunity, especially through, being with the internet, to get involved with really anything and everything you want, because what I'm finding through researching and toying around with reopening Lemonade Yard Sale is that everything that I want to be a part of exists, or wanted to create, people are doing. And so it's just like, oh, cool. I just have to jump on board And that's the cool thing that we have, the internet.
Yeah, between the internet and just being in a larger city, I'm sure from moving around, you've kind of noticed that there are just some things that come with the city.
Mm-hmm.
There are some benefits to suburbia, and there are benefits to rural areas.
Yeah.
The city has people.
Yeah.
So that's what makes me happy. I love
agree.
people. I love
connecting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all good.
I agree.
Let us talk about the future.
Okay.
I like the future.
I do too. It's exciting.
It is exciting, and we get to decide it.
Yeah. Right now.
Right here.
Right here.
On this podcast. You're part of it. Well,
yeah. This is the manifestation couch.
The manifestation quilt.
Yes. It is actually.
So, with the future, let's start with what do you see the next 5 years looking like, based on just in general, like let's say Atlanta or the country or the world, like whatever. What do you see everything looking like, based on what you've either seen on Facebook, seen on the news, seen wherever, or come to conclusions?
I don't watch the news.
Well, just wherever you.
So I think, I guess the next 5 years, I can talk about Atlanta. And I'll touch on whatever. Atlanta, I think, is growing, specifically in the film industry.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exciting for me, for what I'm wanting to do.
You're in the right place.
Yeah, I'm in the right place at the right time. So I see that to continue to grow, and that makes me excited because already it's bringing in a lot more creative people and a lot more money to do a lot more in this city. And I think it's a cool city. I think there's a lot of people who are hungry for all kinds of changes, and it's happening. Really cool, businesses are opening that are thinking about things a little differently. Like Cross Street Market is opening, and like all these different like people who are kind of the innovative are coming here. Like people who like develop juice that's very innovative, and it's coming out of the South rather than something like San Francisco, like California or New York. So it kind of makes me proud because I come from a family that's Southern, and the South is always a little bit slower on their progressive thoughts, and so it's cool to see people thinking about, urban gardens and having them here in Atlanta, and thinking about the community more like that, and how to reach out and be more eco-conscious, or how do we do solar panels. Like I hear all these different things more and more that aren't historically things that are talked about in the South necessarily. And so that it makes me excited that people are, I think in 5 years from now, there'll be a lot more of all of that. And even like just technology with electronic cars and all that stuff. You see the plugins at the grocery store, and that makes me excited. I like walked out one night and was like, oh my God, that's awesome. Definitely. And so
there's a new one at Atlantic Station too.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah. There's one at the Kroger that I usually go to, and I was like completely like, what?
What are you doing?
Like
Kroger.
Nice.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. Really cool. Front parking lot too. Front of the parking.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So I think that's kind of how I feel about that. Like I'm excited for my immediate community because this is where I live. It affects me. The people who I live around are healthier and thinking about these things more, than it's going to affect me, and vice versa. So it's nice to see that.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right. How about in the next 5 years, what do you think we collectively, either the city, the country, the world, whatever, what do you, from your perspective, think we should focus on?
Oh.
There's no right answer.
I know there's not. I'm like, that's so Well, ourselves, I think. Well, like, yeah, I think. I mean, there's aspects of me that's probably like very idealistic, but focus on everyone. Like, if people could focus on doing better for themselves and giving more rather than taking or wanting or being, too hungry rather for things that aren't theirs. I think if people just change their mindset of what's important and like things like that, I feel like a lot of the changes that we'd want to see would just happen.
Yeah. There's an interesting
wisdom. I think there needs to be value placed on like wisdom and value placed on education and health and things like that, because I think that it's like it goes back to if you take care of that yourself, and if you take care of the people around you, then they can go off and take care of others, and it's like the domino effect that it reaches out. I'm not someone who necessarily prescribes to world peace, but because we're human, that's not going to be achievable. But I do think that there's like a synergy that we could create, and I think it starts with
for sure
educating and see that.
All right. There's a it's gone.
Okay.
Whatever. I'll think of it later.
Okay. That can go on my list of names.
Yeah.
The thought. He thought.
That occurred
It slipped.
at this time.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. So I like to wrap these up with a light note.
Okay.
So the light note is, what does Sara Bess want to do for the next 5 years?
What does Sara Bess want to do? I want to do like a million things, and that's always what's achievable to make happen. But I want to act. I want to. I think that actors and people who are creative, they put themselves in a position to be very influential, and so I want to continue that because it's like what feeds me creatively. And I want it to be something that inspires people and live a life. I want to live the life doing other things that's healthy through eating well and taking care of myself that inspire people to do that as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So live my dream, but also create an empire of health and well-being and light.
An empire.
Empire. I want to build an empire of personal power, and doing that for myself, like I said, is the first thing, and then help others
Good.
do the same. So that next 5 years, I'm going to write a script. I'm going to make a movie, possibly an episodic. Maybe do this t-shirt company and help some nonprofits, mentor some kids. All things. Hopefully fall in love. Everything.
All the things.
All the things.
All right, good deal.
And get a puppy.
You want to get a puppy?
Yeah. On a more simple level.
Throw it on.
Yeah, I want to get a puppy. Yeah. So yeah.
Fun, any particular type of puppy?
Yes.
Yes.
A Shih Tzu.
Shih Tzu.
Yes,
Really?
they're so cute. I love the underbite. They're little so cute. They look like Ewoks.
Okay.
These are the reasons. So those are some of the things.
Those are some high quality reasons. I like it.
They're so freaking cute. So, yeah, that's what I want to do.
Well, wonderful. That's it. Anything you'd like to plug? Like, do you have a website or maybe something you worked on recently?
I have an acting website, which is sarabess.com. No H. SARABESS. And that's right now what's going on. I have a couple of episodes and films, but everything's primarily on there. So if you go on there, you can come and see what's going on in my life.
If you want to get more in contact with Sara Bess, check it out, her website. I think that's it.
Okay.
So thank you so much for being on.
Thank you.
So fun. Yay.
I had fun.
Bye, everybody. See you next time.